Building a bulletproof backup plan for photographers is our topic today on Luminar Coffee Break, and this special edition begins now. Well, hello everyone. So tomorrow, March 31st, is World Backup Day. And I know that sounds funny, but we started this because everything has gone digital. And unfortunately, we are in what's called the digital dark ages. And what that means is if we were to lose a hard drive, a cell phone, any of our data, all of those precious photos that we took of our family, friends, or events, they're gone. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't follow a simple backup plan. I have a niece who stored all of my nephew's baby photos in her phone. So if something happens to that phone, I said, well, do you at least have it backed up to iCloud? No, that got too expensive. I only have a little bit of it. If anything happens to that phone, all of those precious memories are gone forever. So today what I'm going to do is show you how to build a bulletproof backup plan, and I'll show you a good, better, and best scenario. All right? So let's jump right in. So here we are, we're building a bulletproof backup plan. Now, the concept, first of all, you could download this free ebook, and the ebook, just type in the link below. So either take a screenshot of this or just copy it, vanelli.studio/321. All right, so building a bulletproof backup plan, I'm just going to bomb through why we need one, what the concept is, the difference, what hardware we need, and then I'll show you my own personal one, and then we'll design one for you. All right, so why do we need a plan? It's simple. How much are your photos worth? You know, it's hard to put a price tag on years of memory. So if you're a professional, obviously you need these images. If you're doing it for personal, if you were to lose photos of a special moment you had with your family, it's priceless. All right, so what is the 3-to-1 backup concept? It's real simple. 3 copies of your data. 2 of those are stored locally on different medias or different drives. And then 1 is stored off-site. So 3 copies of your data, 2 stored locally on different hard drives, 1 stored off-site. All right, now the different types of backups. Now, unfortunately, people misuse the word backup. So backup is the process of backing up, refers to copying or archiving. Keyword, archiving in computer data, so it may be used to restore the originals after the loss. So that's what a backup is. File syncing versus full backup. So with this, syncing is different. It's going to create 2 identical copies that is updated both ways. All right, so if one hard drive fails, you have the other one. Now, what happens? If a file changes on, let's say, drive A, then drive B is updated. If something happens on drive B, drive A is automatically updated. Here's the catch. If you delete a file on either one of them, both are automatically deleted. And at that point, you'll rely on your system trash can to restore that file, or the third option will be to use the offline backup that we're going to talk about. All right? Mirroring is slightly different. Mirroring is going to create 2 identical copies that is only backed up one way. So that means we want our second hard drive to be the same bit for bit. So if the main drive fails, we just swap out and use the mirror drive until we rebuild a new one. Copying is when you select all your files from one hard drive and copy them to another. Now, here's the issue with this. There's no link. So if I were to change something on drive A, drive B never sees it. Only use this when you're giving away a copy. Now, a full backup, and that's what offsite backups are designed for, will create a compressed copy of every file. Deleted file, multiple changes to that file, every file you've ever created. What's great about that is you can actually go back in time and find the exact file you need, but if you were to make alterations to that file, or if the file were corrupt, you can actually go back in time to find one of the files that are not corrupt. So this will require more storage than the original hard drives, and can only be read by software. So this is perfect for the off-site backup plans. All right? So best settings for photographers. Now, syncing is where we're going to create the two identical copies that is updated both ways. So there are plenty free and paid programs that can do this. For Windows, there's SyncBack Pro, which is phenomenal. For Mac, there's Carbon Copy Cloner. So what we're going to do is this. We need a full backup, and that's what we're going to use for a paid option for the offsite backup. So I know you can sit there and think, well, what about Google Drive or Dropbox? They're not backing up. They're copying your files to their drive. So a full backup does incremental backups, and what it does is it'll take your file, and each time you make a change to it, it stores X number of those. So that's the one we want, just in case there's a corruption in one of our files. All right. So now, what hardware is needed? So there's different connection types, which really we don't need to get into. But this is the part what we need, is what hard drives do we use? So there's internal hard drives, there's SSD drives, portable drives, and then external hard drives that require power. The speeds are typically 5,400, 7,200, and 10,000 RPMs. For us, let me go back here. For us, 72,000 RPM or 7,200 RPMs is what we're looking for. 5,400 is too slow. 10,000 is great for video when you're dealing with large files in bulk. But for photographers, a 7,200 drive is preferable. Now, RAIDs. So a RAID system grows with you. Now, do you remember back in the old days, what would happen is you'd have a 1 terabyte hard drive, and then that drive filled up. So you went out and bought a 2 terabyte hard drive, copied everything off of the 1 onto that 2. So really, you only upgraded 1 terabyte. And it kept doing this all the way up through. With the RAID system, when your system gets full, you just put in another hard drive. And you keep doing it until you have all the storage that you need. If you run out of bays, then you can swap out a hard drive, let's say a 6 terabyte, and put it in 8 terabyte. And so it kind of grows with you. But here's the thing. RAIDs are expensive. They're phenomenal. But if you don't have more, I would say, than 8 terabytes of data, then it's not necessary. You can get away with what we worked on earlier right here. This right here, the external hard drive, you can get away with using like a 12 terabyte Western Digital hard drive, and that should last you a very, very long time. But if you're growing at a very, very fast rate, then you need to look into a RAID system. All right? So here's my personal backup system. So I store all my programs and my cache files on my C drive, which is an SSD drive. Then on my Drobo 5D, I use as my primary drive because it's the fastest one. And then my N drive, which is a network drive, I back up everything to that drive itself. Then at the end, I upload to CrashPlan for my off-site backup plan. So here's mine. My SSD drive is my fastest drive, my 5D and my 5N. Since I am working with a laptop, you only have so much storage on your laptop. So on my laptop, I only store my most critical files that I need, especially when I go off, on trips. So all of my photos are on my Drobo, on my D drive. However, or I could call it my E drive. However, when I need to do coffee break or a presentation, I'll copy a lot of those files onto my C drive. And then if my C drive gets full, I know which files I can delete. All right? So now let's design one that's right for you. Here's a good scenario. Your C drive, so that's going to be one, which is not a great option, but C drive, if you have under a terabyte of data, use your C drive as your one copy. So 321 backup, 3 copies of our data, 2 stored locally. C would be considered one of those stored locally, and then your external drive would be considered your second one stored locally. Offsite, which would be your third, Dropbox or Google. And again, that's if you have, let's say, like a terabyte or less of data, and typically this is for a laptop. If you have a desktop, you have a lot more storage, all right? So a better solution would be upgrade your C drive to an SSD drive, so it's faster, then get 2 external hard drives. And on those external hard drives will be connected to CrashPlan, which is the offsite backup. So that's a better solution. And then finally, the best solution is if you were to do a RAID system. Again, the price jumps way up there. So with that, keep in mind that's yes, it is including the hard drives inside the units. I take that, yes, it's including a small amount of hard drives in the unit. So this is if you start to notice you're dealing with 8 terabytes of data or greater, and you're growing at a very fast pace. All right? You already have my contact information, but here it is. Good. So again, here's where you can download the full detail in the ebook, Vinelli.studio/321 backup. All right? So let me open it up for discussion now. So any thoughts on what are you using currently for your backup, and did this make sense for you?
Are you talking about the system backup or the photo backup?
So in other words, right now, Thomas, if let's say, if your hard drive were to fail right at this moment, right, will you be up and running immediately?
I back up my system on an external hard drive. Yeah, it's an SSD, Western Digital. You showed it in your photo. That's one. It has 12 terabytes, and 2 terabytes are for the backup system. 10 terabytes are for the photos, which I copied on another external hard drive as well. These 2 hard drives take all my raw photos. And on my laptop, I got an external hard drive, SSD, and there I stored all my JPEG photos I took from the sports. So I got 3 external hard drives.
Plus another one. So Thomas is running into the same scenario that a lot of people run into. You have too many backups. Because now you don't know which is the originals, which are the backups. So in this case here, you have all this in one location, right, Thomas?
Nope.
Well, where's it located?
2 are at my home, and the other external hard drive is always with me when I'm out in the field.
Okay, so you're home right now. So is that external hard drive with you?
Yeah.
So God forbid, all of your hard drive, all of your data is in one location. So if God forbid you had a disaster scenario, somebody came in and stole all of your computers, or if you have a fire or something happens, like in Florida, hurricanes, if something happens, everything is lost. So now you no longer have anything.
No, you don't know how quick I am.
So, all right, so that's one, and that's a major disaster scenario, which we pray to God no one has to live through. Here in Florida with the hurricanes, after seeing what the devastation did in some parts of Florida, that's when I came up with the system here. So if you were to have one off-site, like Crash Plan or Backblaze, then if something were to happen in that scenario, all of your stuff is still safe in the cloud. All right. Now, here's the other thing.
I don't like cloud. I don't like the cloud.
So, or if you don't like cloud, then you would take one of those 12 terabytes, and once a week, bring it over to like either put it in a bank vault, put it somewhere outside of your home, so it's not always with you. And then this way, if something happens, you always have that. All right. So now the other scenario is, like I said, we have those two hard drives sitting side by side. If hard drive A fails, if it fails, well, then it's okay because we have drive B. And drive B is identical to drive A. Now in Windows, you just have to change the drive letter. And you just have to switch it over to tell it, hey, this is my new drive D or whatever it is. And then you'd go out to the store, buy a new hard drive, bring it home, and then let it synchronize in the background or when you go to bed. And there's zero downtime whatsoever. All right? So that's why the 3-2-1 backup plan is very proficient and cost effective that way. Now, if you're using your computer as one of the storage of your images, well, the problem there is if the computer crashes, then yes, you still have that external, whatever, how many gigs it is, or terabytes it is. You have the external drive, so all your data is safe. You just have to rebuild your computer. Now, most laptops don't have more than what? 512, 1 terabyte of data, and you don't want to fill that up. I mean, us photographers will shoot. You're shooting 64 gigs, when you go out on the field. And Thomas, with sports, you're shooting a lot more than that. So, you're filling up those hard drives really fast. So again, 3-2-1 concept is 3 copies of your data, not 4, not 5, 3. 2 of them stored locally, 1 is stored off-site. All right? Fire away, Sue. Is it Susie? Susie.
Yes, hello. Sorry that I missed the beginning of this meeting. So I just experienced a crash of my hard drive. Yes. And it was 10 terabyte loss.
Oh my God.
And I do have a backup plan, but my backup plan is the cloud. And it took me 3 weeks to synchronize everything back. So just to sum up, if I understood you correctly, what you would recommend for me in this situation would be another local storage. Is that correct?
Exactly. So let me see if I could jump on one moment. And I apologize. The timing. Oh, here we go. Let me pull it. I'll share my screen in one moment. The timing of this event was changed, or the time of the event was changed. So I apologize. And let me get to it. It's almost there.
You need a backup plan.
And actually I'll explain about that in a moment too, which you'll like.
Oh,
Carl's a backup, but he forgot to come in.
No, Carl already told me he wasn't able to make it today.
One was.
All right, so here we are. We're almost there. There we go. So this is the 3-2-1 backup concept. 3 copies of your data. 2 of those stored on different types of hard drives. 1 stored off-site. So in your case, the off-site one is what saved your life. Because if you didn't have that would have totally that totally would have messed everything up. But if you were to have 2 locally stored copies, so if you were to have 2 external drives, let's say you said 12 terabytes. So if you had 2 12 terabyte drives, your external drives, if that one drive crashed, now you have the second one locally. You didn't have to wait 3 weeks in order for that to come back to you. Now, some places do have what's called a seed. They send you a seed, which is an actual hard drive of all of your stuff, and then you just back up from that. But again, I think Backblaze does that. I'm not sure if CrashPlan does. But if there's a cost involved, usually like a couple $100.
Now, Backblaze does do that.
Backblaze does. So it's CrashPlan, I think, that doesn't. So,
I signed up just recently.
and the purpose of the offsite backup too is, Susie's, let's say you have a corrupt, like in my case, what made me become an advocate of it is I corrupted my Lightroom catalog. And it kept on going, didn't pay attention. And then one day, it just completely crashed. And what I didn't do with Lightroom was I never took all of my edits outside of Lightroom. I kept all of my edits inside, so all those years of all the edits I've created were gone. So I went to back up from the backup on my drive. That was corrupt. I was like, oh, shoot. So I went down the list, I went online, and I think like the 10th backup, 6 months later, or 6 months of when I did 6 months earlier, I used that one. So really, I lost about 6 months worth of work. So that made me realize, A, for Lightroom, make sure you export, same thing with Luminar, export all of your images. Once you do an edit that you're in love with, export it to a complete folder. Now you don't have to worry in case something happens to Luminar. Or make sure that, like in Lightroom, use their backup system. Now I'm going to show you where Luminar stores our backups, all right? One moment. Let me switch over to my desktop. And I'm going to fire up Luminar real quick. Actually, you know what? To make life easier, I'm just going to show you where it is in the hard drive. So as that's coming in, I'll share my screen in just one moment. Here we go. All right, so here's my system setup. For Windows, if you go into your program files and under program files, I take that back. I am so sorry. It's under, the default is under pictures. Here we go. So under your pictures folder, you'll see Luminar Catalog. And inside the Luminar Catalog, you'll see this backup plan. Now, you're not going to recognize any of these here. They're just files here. What you have to do, if we're going to use one of these, now this is all for internal use. If I have to back up on a Mac, it's real easy. On a Mac, you just press the Option key, start the program, and it'll let you select from one of the backups, or it'll let you select a different catalog, or it'll let you create your own. Us Windows users, unfortunately, we don't have that feature. So what we have to do is pick one of these backups, copy it over here, and then add Luminar this extension right here, Luminar Neo. So whatever the backup would be, let's say it was, we'll do it right here. If I take the first one, I copy it, and then I would place it in my Luminar Catalog folder, which is here, paste it, and then the only difference is to make it look like I could use it is I have to put the extension Luminar Neo. Excuse me. And now I could use that as one of my catalogs, all right? Now, for us, I'm going to delete that. There. Now, for us, what I'd recommend, don't store your Luminar catalog. I know it's the default in your pictures folder. If anything, store it in your documents folder. And in your documents folder, create a Luminar Neo catalog. I can't believe I didn't put the word catalog here. Or Luminar AI catalog. Personally, I put it on my C drive. And on my C drive, I have my Luminar Neo catalog, my Luminar AI catalog, and then I put my Lightroom catalog here also. So I put it out of the default location. And the reason why I do that is if there's a problem with the catalog, I just go in and rename on Windows. I go in and rename that particular folder, and now I'm up and running. I can just launch Luminar. It opens, tells me I need to create a new catalog, and I'm good to go. All right? So let's open up for more discussion. Anyone else?
I got here a little late. Did you already cover where, like in the software, is there a preferences where I can set my backup location?
Yeah, so in the software we can't. So in, it's
Okay, so the default location is in pictures.
yes, but when you save one, so let's say you were to save a new catalog, so you'd put File, New Catalog. Now you have a choice of where you want to put it.
Okay.
And at that point is where I would create one in Documents. Or because I don't know about.
If I have one created, and I just move to a new location, then open it from that location, will
Yeah.
it automatically continue saving to that location?
Yes, now. Excuse me. Tom, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's the grossest thing ever. Singer's voice. Yeah. So Thomas, he brought out a great point and said, what happens if he moved his catalog over and opens it up again? What do you think is going to happen inside Luminar? You're going to get all of those warning signs out of your photos saying that it can't find it. And the only reason for that was because you moved your catalog, and that's okay. Just tell Luminar, okay, relocate missing files, and you'll be fine. Now, that may happen, it may not happen, depending on, like, if you have Luminar closed, and you move it over, obviously, you move it over into that, and then relaunch it, it may just easily find it. Now, if you do move folders, then yes, that would mess it up. But in this case here, if you were to move one of those over, it may or may not find it. But if it doesn't find it, don't worry. Just relocate one, and I'll relocate all your folders for you.
Yeah, I'm not worried about relocating the files. The question was, once the files are relocated and I'm working, will it save a backup to that new?
Oh, yes.
Continue saving it. Okay.
Yep. So wherever that catalog is, it'll save a history for Mac users. It saves a history, your cache files, and your backup file. So it does all three of those behind the scenes for you.
And Benelli, why again do we want to move it? This is John Bond. Why again do we want to move it from pictures to files.
Okay, so you guys, I'm going to say this politely, without insulting other people. You guys have a better grasp. You guys have a better grasp of the catalog system than most. What happens is a lot of people, and I did this with Lightroom when I first got it. You click on they store all of their pictures in their pictures folder. So they click on pictures and select everything in their pictures folder, all thousands and thousands and thousands, and it brings them into the catalog. Well, when you do that, you select the pictures folder. Well, what's inside that pictures folder? Your Luminar Catalog. What's inside your Luminar Catalog? All the cache thumbnails of all of your pictures. So now it's like a mirror. All of a sudden, it starts putting all those extra images inside your Luminar Catalog. And let's say you have 8,000 photos. Well, now you have 8,000 plus 8,000 thumbnails, and it just keeps on growing all the way through. So it just constantly adds to it. So, and that, thank God, is in the user manual for Luminar AI. And I'm making sure that it's in Luminar Neo's user manual, best practices. I'm trying to get our support team to understand, our engineers to just put it in the documents folder, because who adds a document folder to their pictures folder, right? So I see a lot of people joining us, and I apologize that the time zones were changed, that the time for this event was changed. They had me triple booked from Coffee Break, then I have Kelby, and then I have an affiliate briefing right after that. So I apologize that we swapped this time from 1 to noon. For any of you joining us late, don't worry. This will be uploaded as soon as we're done. I have a local copy of it. I'll upload it immediately to Insiders so you can watch it from the very beginning. All right? So again, real quick, the topic was on your backup plan. And I'm just curious, Edward, what do you have as a backup plan?
Vanelli, this is John Bond 73. I have a Mac, and I bought years ago when Apple had a Wi-Fi and I forget what it's called, but a 2 terabyte storage. It came with an auto backup, and it is a full backup, because if you go to backup, you can go back, by day and go to a certain day and pull it in. And I also have one hard drive, and it's to the Apple Cloud, and I just bought a 4 terabyte hard drive, so I'll have 2 hard drives.
Okay, so
I don't have that much. I've got less than a terabyte of everything.
Yeah, and you're fine. So as Susie, as I mentioned to her, if if you don't have more than a terabyte of data, then you could use your computer as one source of the 3-2-1 backup. One copy of your data, and then of course an external drive, and the third will be the cloud. And I'll use my sister as an example. She has a laptop. She barely has 1 terabyte. For her to buy a Drobo system or a Western Digital, a system that's like $800 to store 12 terabytes of data, that's just outrageous. That's way too much. But for her, we do have an external hard drive. So at the end of the night, she'll plug that in, everything gets stored to it, but her regular computer gets uploaded to the cloud every time she turns it on. So she has the 3-2-1 backup, a very inexpensive version of it. Her laptop is 1 copy of her data, the hard drive is the second, and then the cloud is her third. Now, my cousin Marianne, who got into photography, she quickly rose. So she did the traditional stuff that we all did. You buy a 2 terabyte hard drive, you fill it up. So then you buy a 4 terabyte hard drive, copy all your 2 terabytes over to it, and now you only have 2 terabytes left. So with her, we figured out how many images she's taking a year. So she has 2 6 terabyte external drives connected. So one is mirrored, like we said, to the other, and is connected to the computer. Now, with her, she's not, Marianne, you're not on, are you? No. Okay, I love her tremendously. But she does have a habit of dropping things quite a bit. And she was, can I borrow your 17 to 24 lens, 2.8? I'm like, I looked at my cousin Nick. I go, Mare, if you promise me, you'll just won't drop it. And we laughed about it. Now it's uninsured, but we joke. But one thing she did, she dropped her hard drive, and you know what happens with one of those. You drop a portable hard drive, doesn't matter the distance, that becomes unusable. So sure enough, that's what happened to her. And I said, Mare, we plan for this scenario, use the other hard drive, and you're good to go. Boom, she was. She went out and bought a new hard drive for the external one, and then just synced it back up again, and she was good to go. So that's with her with a laptop. If you have a desktop, then I'd recommend getting, the Western Digital ebook, the book ones that they have. So the book ones are really good because they do require power, which means you're 7,200 RPMs. The 5,400 RPM ones, like on the external drives, they're not as fast. So just be aware of that. So they're not as fast. When you're dealing with power, then they could put the 72 RPM drives in it, 7,200. All right? So, again, I apologize. I know a lot of people are coming in and you didn't see the time difference. So this is recorded, and I'll make sure the moment we end this, we'll put everything up on Insiders the moment we end this episode. All right? So for those that were here earlier, did that make sense for you on what we did?
Yes.
Good. All right. And it's not,
It certainly does.
and honestly, it's not as cool as buying a new lens. It's not as cool as buying, a new camera. It's one of those things, I'll get mañana. I'll get to it tomorrow. And then, like in Susie's case, once you have a crash, you're like, oh man. In fact, Susie, how did it crash? Just, it was old?
I really have no idea. It just from one day to the other, it just didn't work anymore. I powered up my PC and it simply wouldn't boot. And when I brought it to the guy to fix it, he said, well, the hard drive is broken and there is nothing we can do to salvage data. And I just had to get a new hard drive, which was completely empty, of course.
Yes.
And yeah.
So again, in that disaster scenario, having because she has 12 terabytes of data, having 2 external drives is the best scenario. So if the computer ever crashed again, her data is safe. She just has to upload or run the operating system, install, Luminar AI, Luminar Neo, whatever programs you have, and then you're up and running within a few hours. If a hard drive fails, then she just puts it off to the side for a moment, continues with her work with the backup drive, and then goes out and purchases a second one. Now, keep this in mind, by the way. Some people will say, well, I'll just use SSDs. They crash just like hard drives do. The difference is an SSD drive, there's no signs. It just crashes. One day it works, one day it doesn't. On a hard drive, a traditional hard drive, you'll see signs. Like you'll start to see your screen, there's things you'll start to see, slowing, noises. There's signs that that's going to be failing pretty soon. Now, one piece of advice I didn't give was when I do replace one of the hard drives, I put the date on the hard drive that I purchased it. This way I can see if it's still under warranty. So if a hard drive fails, I check to see if it's under warranty. If it is, great, they'll cover it. If it's not, then I have to, the cost of me, being a photographer. Now keep with that in mind, how long does a hard drive last typically look at what the warranty says. If they warranty it for 2 years, plan on being good for at least 2 to 4 years. If they warranty for 5 years, plan on it being good for at least 5 years, 7 or 8 max. So, and keep in mind, when you purchase one with a warranty of like 5 years, keep in mind you're paying for the Enterprise Edition, and you're paying a lot more for those, but there's a reason. Since I have the Drobo or a Raid, I'm gonna be completely honest, I purchase cheap drives because if one fails, I just drop it. This is on my backup, not the actual Drobo itself, my main working one. If it fails, it's cheaper to replace. And speed isn't a concern. Now, if my whole Drobo unit fails, that's when I use the backup one. So the only time I'm in a real panicking attack is if the entire Drobo unit fails. Then I have the second one as my backup and I'm good to go. But if a hard drive fails, it's a matter of me pushing a button, pulling one out, putting one in. But again, if you don't have more than at least 8 terabytes of data, that's way overkill and it's not worth it. You could buy 2 of those 12 terabyte Western Digital ones, I believe, for like $250 a piece. So for like $500, you'll have the same security I have as my $1,200 or $1,500 setup. The only difference is if a hard drive fails on that one, you have to replace it again, the whole unit. Mine, I just replace the hard drive. All right?
AV, one other thing, when I buy a new laptop, I'll install all my programs, and then I'll get an external hard drive, and I clone the hard drive as I've got it set up. Like I have Neo, Photoshop, everything, all in there. Just that I clone it to a drive, put it on, write the computer name on, put it on the shelf, and if it dies, I can
swap it out. Now that's you're on a PC, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, so yes, that's perfect for a PC. Mac users, man, you guys got it easy. You just say restore. You know, when you get a new computer, or you get a new phone. Hey, you know what? Make this phone identical to my old phone. Click, and it does it. Android and Windows is not as easy when it comes to that stuff. So that's one tipping of the hat to the Mac OS system. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us. And again, I apologize for the time zone difference. So, but this will be recorded, or it is recorded, and we're putting it on in full on Luminar Insiders. All right. So thanks so much for joining us, and I'll see you at the next coffee break.